So we're off, are we?
Yeah, we're off. We're off.
Right. Yeah, well, I don't do much now, Tom. You know, I collect guitars, drink tea. That's my thing. But I mean, I've recently retired, as you know,
Yeah,
as a senior lecturer after 25 years teaching in universities and colleges and stuff. And my passion, as you know, is community media. And the stuff I used to teach was media, cultural journalism, mostly taught on BA journalism, media culture journalism courses, and also media production. But my interest in media production is more to do with the non-visual sound, audio, radio, podcasting, that kind of stuff. So I still do some stuff. I do it because it's a good thing to do. It helps other people, and I enjoy doing it. And these days I just do what I want to do rather than what I don't want to do.
yeah, of course. I know you're very passionate about community radio, and obviously, well, I'm obviously at Bro Radio today, and that was a big help to you, obviously, and that's been a big part of of my journey so far. Um, how much do you think like community radio is going to change now? Like, obviously, from when we first discussed it back when you first met me 3 years ago, like, how much do you think it's going to change, or does it need to?
Well, it's kind of everything's changing in a way, you know. It's not just community radio. It's kind of the whole shape of everything is changing. But the thing that's changing at the moment in the short term is the move towards digital audio broadcasting. You know, the online stuff. But of course, even in Wales, even in this week gone by, there have been changes, you know, to global radio, and the Wales-based kind of output is disappearing. And it's becoming more and more kind of more and more compressed, really, the whole marketplace. Um, so that's going to affect things like news provision, which is where, you know, Bro Radio, where you are today, is one of the key players, and is going to become one of the most important components of what I would call the kind of democratic mouthpiece, really, for communities and for Wales itself. Actually, Wales per se, community radio is going to have a massive role to play in, you know, delivering genuine local content and news coverage, because it's gonna dissipate more and more and more. The other thing that's going to happen fairly soon, I think, is that like streaming is going to even transcend digital broadcasting, I think, quite soon. So everything's in a state of flux. So and it moves and changes all the time. So community radio is just as it's going to be just as effective as every other part of the marketplace. But it moves with the times, and community radio in Wales, I think, because of things that go on, which some of which I'm involved with, not blowing my own trumpet, but certainly Nathan, who you're with a bro, and others are doing a fantastic job for community radio, and it's probably it's now in a safer place than it's been for a number of years, I think.
Yeah. How much do you think streaming, like, you think streaming's going to, like, you think people are going to, how are they going to stream radio shows then?
Well, I think you know it's all kind of up in the air at the moment. You got to think about cost implications and stuff like this. I suppose if you're going to be investing in studio space and staffing and structures and stuff, then you know, people. Ultimately, it all comes back to content, doesn't it? So people just want to get to the content as quickly and easily and readily as they can. So if they can get that through their phones or this, that, and the other, then I mean, even things like apps, physical radio stations, digital radio stations, all of those cost implications. I'm not saying it is going to happen in the short term, but I think, you know, everything's changing really, really quickly. And the other part of it is here in Wales is that, you know, things in Wales change fairly quickly as well. Like I said, what's happened with Global, with Capital, you know, recently. Um, and also with the BBC and then news provision. And so, you know, there's things that are changing very quickly, and I think the move towards accessing kind of live stream stuff is probably inevitable. You know, look at what's happening with AI. You know, I mean, are either of us even real? You know, who knows?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's very like daunting and confusing. You think streaming's going to provide like, you think it's for the good, like the changes, or is streaming going to be like quite bad? Because of course, like this day and age, like anyone is streaming, and then anyone's becoming famous. And I can't lie, like some of the people that stream, their content isn't exactly like useful or knowledgeable. It's a bit random, like, but they are gaining attraction from it. So for those who obviously, like myself, then go to uni and then go through a master's degree and do it all, why I'd say like, so the traditional route then, um, how is it going to be? It's going to be like education versus random fun content. Like, how do you think, is that going to be beneficial for radio overall, or is it going to be just like a bit chaotic?
Well, I think everything's going to be chaotic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like guaranteed. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I'm not kind of making a major prediction here. I'm just saying that. Well, there's two parts of that question you asked me first. But firstly, you know, the bottom line is people want everything for free and they want everything immediately. And if they can't get everything immediately and they can't get it for free, they'll go somewhere else. That's just kind of the way it is, and that's the way it will be. I think we're actually sleepwalking into quite a disastrous future, but that's just the way it is. But in terms of community radio, of course, community radio stations, they need to have a license, and the license has, certain characteristics which they have to deliver. And in a way, not maybe the best person to speak about this, but it's my opinion. In a way, they're certainly more challenging. I think the demands on community radio stations in terms of what they have to deliver is more demanding and difficult to deliver than it probably is for commercial counterparts, actually. But community radio stations, the nature of community radio stations, in a way, the platform is secondary, and it always will be to the content, and the nature. And what I mean by the platform is how you consume that content. The station itself and the ethos of being a community radio station in which you have to, and I hope it always will be the case, deliver social gain and very much from a locally targeted perspective in your local communities. You're there to help your local communities in however you interpret that. Then it's quite a specific kind of skill set that the community radio stations need to deliver. So there's a big difference between that and every Tom, Dick, and Harry going on and doing some live streaming. I mean, that's already going on, and that can be really terrible. But
Yeah.
community radio stations, by their nature, do, and I believe always will, deliver something significantly better than that.
Yeah. Because I think every Tom, Dick, and Harry just hopping on to social media or just doing live streaming, it's gonna like, it's gonna, because I think the thing is like it's gonna make people question whether they should go to uni. Like I'm gonna hopefully do a master's degree now in September at Cardiff University, do broadcast journalism there. Obviously, broadcast journalism is a bit different, but streaming is a part of that. And I think it's gonna make people go, well, if these random people are gonna just hop on the streaming and make a name for themselves and just have fun, do I really need to go through the whole process of spending money to go to uni and studying all these books and reading all this if I'm just going to be forgotten about, if I'm going to be considered boring because of the content I produce? It's very interesting because like when I was in uni, when you were teaching me, like there were some parts of the degree where I did think, like, well, is this going to be beneficial to me in the future? But of course, I just thought like, well, it's part of the degree, so obviously they obviously know what they're doing. But do you think a lot of people will stop going to uni to study media degrees, media related degrees, if they think they can just obviously, like you said, get it for free and get it instantly and just do it all through social media, like?
No, but I think people go to university who probably, you know, don't need to or shouldn't,
Yeah.
and there are probably too many people. I can say this now, I've retired, I suppose. There are probably too many people paying significant fees to go on university courses which may not actually, you know, uh, it's not a conveyor belt.
Mm,
University degrees, having a university degree. I mean, if you turn up an interview, whatever the platform might be in the future, if you're the one that's got the degree, if you've even got the audacity to do a master's,
yeah,
it shows you care. It shows you're able to uh, cling on to knowledge and use it intelligently, as well as having the skills. So I think, I think it's going to put you in a better place to get the job. And the other side of what you're saying is as well, I can't remember that there was a documentary I watched a while ago, which was terrifying. And it was in the States. And it's pretty well what we're talking about. There was a guy in his basement, and he was doing this like live stream, and it was extremely right wing, and it was extremely kind of xenophobic, and kind of racist, and everything which is bad basically. But and he was when he was doing it, he was doing some live streaming stuff, and people, the money you could there was like a money counter, like a dollar counter in the corner, and the more outrageous and the more extreme they were, the more the dollar counter went up.
mm,
And you can't do anything about that, because those kind of people are going to do what they do, but they're never going to have legitimacy. They're never going to have credibility.
yeah,
And anyone with any integrity should be able to see straight through it and will want something better. And so you're doing all the right things. You're at a community radio station. It's one of the best in Wales.
yeah,
Certainly one of the best resourced in Wales. There's no doubt about it for a radio. Yeah.
yeah,
You're working with some really good people. You've got a degree. You're interviewing me. You interview people. You're doing your podcasting. You're doing all the right stuff. So
yeah,
just keep on doing the right stuff. And then, as I say, as and when we probably talked about this when I was in university with you. You can go
yeah,
through your 3 years in university, and you can, write the nice words and fill in the pieces of paper, and get a nice degree, and you know, great. But at the end of the 3 years, who's going to be more employable? Who's going to have a better chance of making a career for themselves? The person who's just literally done the paperwork and handed in the work, or the person who's networked, collaborated, tried new
yeah.
things, met people, developed a network, developed a bit of a profile, made a few mistakes, learned from them. That person will get the job.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that. Because I mean, I don't know how people who study like media degrees, I don't know how they're not interested in networking. Like, 'cause I love meeting people. Like, I think even if you're not so much of a confident person, like, I think you should go to these networking events, whether it's to do with like radio platform or Bro Radio, and just like, because there's courses going on right now at Bro Radio. I was talking to
Yeah, very
someone
good too.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and yeah, like for the youth and for the adults, and I just like, I'm not like I'm not slating anyone. I'm not like obviously naming names, but I was in uni with some people. I did actually think I felt like people were missing out on a lot of opportunities, and I felt as if to me I was like, well, it is media, like we are in a creative industries building, like you're gonna make things a bit harder if you don't really go out the network, like, but I think that depends on who you are in some ways, but. No, I think you're right. Like, I think if you go to an interview and stuff and you show you have the qualifications and obviously the experience, then obviously you're going
You
to be
could,
more.
yeah. I mean, the bottom line is, Tom, sorry to interrupt you, but the
Yeah,
bottom the
yeah,
bottom line is, and it sounds like I think it's called an aphorism, like a really silly comment, really. But you can only be the best version of yourself.
yeah,
That's all you can do.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, and yeah, and whatever. Yeah, of course. But if all that's said and done, then like, what is the point in streaming? Like, what is the point in in sort of like, because I do feel like companies, sort of show streaming and all that stuff, and they just sort of like say like, oh, like anyone can do it, anyone can sort of hop on there, and anyone can like. But what is the point if like you said, like if they're gonna if they're not going to be relevant, they're not going to stay relevant. Like what is the point in streaming? Because I think if that's the case, then streaming should be taken more seriously, and I think that way it would be better. Because I do think it's quite dangerous that anyone can do it.
Well, I mean, the example I gave was I actually showed that video to some students. I don't know whether they were interested or not really, but it's a really dangerous thing that it comes back to a much bigger question than you're asking me. Monday, Donald Trump is going to be re-elected as the the president of the United States.
Yeah.
And you could argue that Trumpism, if you like, and the like, which is filtered through, certainly filtered through to the UK, and the questioning of truth, and this uh, kind of misty kind of view of fake news, so you don't know what's fake and what isn't, and you question reality and you question experts and everything else. Then it just creates a dangerous environment. But we can't do anything about that because that's just the world that we live in, you know.
Mm.
So again, all you can do, if you're the person who has the decent values, like, Bro Radio, totally credible, well established, award-winning community radio station, fantastic facilities, very well managed. It's just doing all the right things, you know. So
Yeah.
rise above, really.
Yeah. Um, how important, like, do you think community radio is still in touch with the youth? Like, obviously I'm 22, but do you think community radio is ever gonna like become unpopular with the younger generation, or do you think they're always gonna stick with it?
Radio in general, struggles to,
Yeah.
connect with younger people. If you think about like technology in general, in a university, I used to work in one, as you may know. So in that university, and this is sounds like I am an old man, so I can say old man things, right?
Yeah.
So,
No.
most students pretty well, the vast majority didn't read newspapers, access the news from, not non kind of uh what blue ribband kind of sources, didn't listen to live radio, almost never watched live TV, because it's expensive, which I get, right? So you use streaming services and everything else for that. And it's a media course, so
Yeah.
you're kind of struggling a bit, but in terms of technology, you're 22, so I don't know, I'll take wild guess. I'm guessing you were probably, 10, 11, 12, or whatever, and you probably already, had a mobile phone and probably, learning about software and, technology, and probably your parents didn't know what the hell you were doing half the time, That's what it comes to you naturally as young people, doesn't it?
Yeah. 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 Yes, yeah, it's yeah, it's funny how the journalism students and like people in like my degree and stuff, like I do now actually, I wasn't buying the paper regularly back then, but I do actually now buy, like, I read the local paper where I live in Brecon. I buy, well, most of them really, because I do like to obviously get a broad range of how they write and how they structure things in their headlines and stuff.
That's
So I don't want to.
great. That's a really, really good thing to do.
Yeah, and I listen to like the BBC and Piers Morgan Uncensored. I listen to Good Morning Britain, like it's sort of all the shows really, like sort of, and obviously like I made up my, and I listen to like different podcasts like as well, depending on who's on there. And I think it's interesting, like a lot of what's going on. And yeah, there's a lot of changes, but what's happened with, because I haven't really caught up on it much. What's happened with Global and Capital? What's happened there?
Well, I haven't got the information in front of me now, but essentially what they're doing is, as of this month, I think, they're basically essentially binning most of their locally generated programming, most of the kind of drive time shows, etc. And so it means that obviously, as a result of that, then their costs will reduce, and a lot of the programming will be more kind of emanating from London, as opposed to, various networks, outposts, throughout the UK. So I mean, that's been the trend over the years, really. And also, what happens then is that you end up eventually, ultimately. I'm just going to go off a little bit one on one here, right? So, I'm an old man, yeah. So in the old days, Tom, yeah, you drive down the road and there'd be things like chip shops and petrol stations and things like this.
Yeah.
Believe me, they've nearly all gone, right? So
Mm.
petrol stations these days, you're going to go to a big superstore, aren't you?
Yeah,
So it'll be a big corporation. If you think of like something like Asda, and you think about their connections with big American kind of, massive, massive, massive companies. And then the supermarkets, one buys the other. And then you've got the apparent little Aldi thing going on, but are they really connected? Who knows? And then the chip shops, they're all international cuisine now, So everything's kind of changed, right?
yeah,
Everything's kind of changed. But what happens ultimately with that is a thing called homogenization. So what it basically means is, if you look behind me now, see, I've got some guitars over there, right? So I got a Martin, and I've got a Gibson, and I got a Fender, right? So there's three of the biggest brands in the world, right? So the way things are going, like years ago, they were in all these little tiny little companies, but these days, you end up you have a certain brand. So we all wear the same clothes. We all listen to the same music because the radio stations, like we said, were global and whatever. And it's more and more homogenized. It's more and more one-dimensional. Um, there's less and less separation. There's less and less choice. You're going to go into supermarkets and you'll find things which are more kind of niche and slightly more left of center won't be there anymore. And that's the way the whole thing is going. Same with music, massively the case with music. The thing is, unfortunately, when it's gone, it's gone. It's
yeah,
gone. It's gone. So people live in the here and now, day to day. Everything's free. Let's have it now. I'm not paying for it. I get it over there. Bang! I want it now. It's actually as you might predict, it's absolutely unsustainable. But that's again where community radio comes into its own, because it does that thing which is something more, which is something different, and it involves local people, and it can provide a different message, particularly in terms of news. So community radio has a massive future, I think, certainly in Wales, and particularly in the provision of news and local content.
yeah. How much do you think social media has been a big problem with this whole like, I want it now, I want it now, because even like, and same with like, you touched on music, like how much has the music industry changed in that regard? Because there's now like singers becoming famous off platforms like TikTok who, they record songs, they release songs on TikTok, and then all of a sudden they've blown up and now they're famous, and then everyone's thinking like, well, who the hell is this person? Like, there's no like gradual rise anymore. There's all just like, boom, this person's in your face, then this song, then that song, then this artist, and then they're gone. Like they just vanish. Like people come and go within about 5 seconds. So how much do you think is that a problem within the industry, particularly music? Like,
I mean, that's almost a separate podcast in itself. There's a guy called Luke Jones who I'd recommend to you, if you want to check him out. He's got a podcast called Where Is My Hit Single?
right,
He's a fascinating guy, and really, I mean, if you watch it, listen to his stuff, his podcast is great, beautifully produced. Um, Music is almost the kind of concept of music and musicians and songwriters is almost dead.
yeah,
It's kind of almost dead. And interestingly, America, I think they're going to bin TikTok on Sunday, the day before Donald gets in. So there's changes coming with TikTok. But like a record company well, like when I was young, I played in bands when I was young, and you'd write songs, and you'd write them. It would be your
yeah,
song. You wouldn't be writing with a whole bunch of other people. You wouldn't need someone to write the rap bit, and the bridge section and everything else. You'd write a song, and then you record them in a studio, stick them on a cassette tape, go to a record company, and try and get a deal. Right? I did all that. Yeah, I didn't get one. I got a couple of small ones, but not really. And then you get old, and then you give up, and then you just keep your guitars in the corner of your room, right? But that kind of progressive ground up model is pretty well gone. But it's kind of a two-way street in that musicians who use TikTok and social media platforms, you just have, if you got some sort of gimmicky, I'm trying to think, there's been loads of them. Got some sort of gimmicky tune, And you can just make, why not make a load of money out of doing something really daft? Just make
Mm.
some money out of it and just get like a viral phenomenon thing going on. But I totally agree with you. There's not necessarily longevity with that. And why would you? There's not many bands around now. Looking at, there used to be a thing called the charts. I don't know. They kind of exist. They don't really.
Yeah,
There's no bands. They're all kind of constructs and whatever. And people like, Ed Sheeran and Taylor Swift, they basically own, the music business.
yeah,
There's like three or four brands. Look at Premiership
mm,
football. There's three or four brands.
yeah, true, yeah,
Everything is going in a massive race to the bottom. Um, so really, why would you write songs? Why would you rehearse? Why would you buy gear? Why would you gig? If you can't get people through the door, 'cause if they can't get in for free, they're not going to come. Nobody buys CDs anymore, right? Nobody they buy vinyl, but it's like crazy expensive. So why would you even bother?
yeah, that's
No.
true.
So
Yeah, that's true.
it's like it kills itself stone dead in the water.
Yeah, that's true. Because even with like I'm big into rap music, and like rap it. SoundCloud was a big platform for rappers, the age of like 15, 16 in like 2018, 2017, and there was some really big songs and some of the artists on there went on to do like are still relevant today and went on to do big songs. But a lot of like rappers that did SoundCloud, they ended up like becoming so irrelevant and so they quit their job and they relied on SoundCloud and they thought this is it. I'm going to be big. I'm going to be the next Eminem, and then they end up, falling off the hype train, working regular jobs at McDonald's, like, and it's just like it's so sad to see. And I think, but the thing is, like, it's like as if the youth don't. It's like as if the youth are still chasing the next fix. Everyone's like it's all like a drug. Like social media is like it's all drug related. It's very like as in like getting that next fix, getting the next high. And I think it's just sad where, and also I don't know how many songs today are really, like you said, written properly, but and how many are actually generated by AI. Because you can go into AI and
It's
say,
a
write me a song
really good point.
with these themes, and then someone just spits the lyrics, claims they're theirs. No one knows any different.
Yeah, yeah, and also the point I was making with that as well is most hit songs. If you take Ed and Taylor out of the equation, most hit songs are team taught,
Yeah,
team written rather. Sorry, team written.
yeah,
So you'll get like a small percentage of a certain part of the song. Like you wrote the bass part for the hook or something.
mm,
The split is going to be so low. And again, if we go back to streaming, like Spotify being the obvious one. You know,
yeah,
I've released three albums. I had a band, we put three albums out. I haven't made a
yeah.
penny. I haven't made a penny yet. I haven't made a penny from Spotify on any one of them. I had a record label behind me on one of them.
But
You've got to shift so many to make anything that it's kind of soul destroying, really.
what about these people that who like? But how does it work for the people who like get these? Well, like I said, like on TikTok, get these like one hit wonders, and then like it's everywhere. And because I always wonder, like, you hear these stories, and I don't know, like you hear these stories. Oh, I was broke, and I was like living on, in such poverty, and then I wrote this song, and I became super famous with it, and now I've got all this money from it, and you just wonder, like, well, how's that happened in the last like? It's only been 2 months, so how's all that happened? Like, I wonder how the marketing works for all that, like, and how
Well,
because I just find some of that really like quite odd.
like years ago when I was a lad,
Huh.
we'd travel up and down to London, play these venues and this, that, and the other, and they'd like to see you had a bit of a following.
Yeah,
Obviously they wanted to check you out live, but they wanted to see you had a bit of a following. So what they used to do in those days is, if you had a venue, they'd put on like a showcase night, and they get you want to come from Wales, and play. You have to bring a bus of people with you.
yeah,
So that's kind, and then the A&R guy turns up, and you've got there's a bit of a buzz because there's people there and this, that, and the other. But that's been kind of blown out the water 50,000 times over now, and TikTok is a great example of that. I'm thinking like years ago, the Birdie song, right?
yeah,
Somebody wrote the Birdie song. And let's face
yeah,
it, the Birdie song is it's the Birdie song. It's
yeah,
not like a great piece of work, but whoever wrote that song made a shed load of money, Gangnam
Mm,
Style, this
mm.
kind of thing, these gadgety things. And the reason that they became popular was probably because they posted on some sort of social media platform, put some sort of daft visuals with it. It went viral, and that's what they're looking out for. I mean, even the way the record companies work, the A&R thing, what it is these days, it's just pure. I think my gut feeling is it's probably purely and simply, wash your social media platform numbers.
Yeah,
You
I
got,
think it is
you're
actually.
in. You got social media platform. You're great. You're in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it because I actually do wonder like now that AI has come along. I mean, literally anyone could just be an artist now. You just go in AI, get a song written for you, auto tune your voice, tweak it a little bit. Oh, you sound nothing like you do on the record, but who cares? Because you can get performing microphones now that make you sound different. So anyone can literally just be an artist. Like you don't have to. I can't sing like anything. Right? I can't hit one note. And my
You could
girlfriend's
with
a
auto
singer.
tune.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like my girlfriend's a singer, and she's
Yeah.
actually sat next to me right now. She came with me today to Barry, and she sings really well. She performs live and stuff,
Well, I'm
at
sure
like the
she's
local.
frustrated by all of this as well. Then.
Well, yeah, because like she performs at local jazz festivals, and she didn't have. She tried to go to the recording studio before we met and stuff, and there wasn't much success. And obviously now I've sort of like I'm helping her out a little bit, trying to show her about radio because I told her like. I think even music artists are dabbling into radio presenting and they're doing voice acting. Like everyone's doing everything. Everyone's dipping the toe in all fields now because you can't just stick to one lane because I think social media has just ruined that as well. And she was she hits the high notes and all the notes well, and I don't. And it's like, but now that AI's come along, does it really make a difference?
You could be the
You can
rapper
just be
guy,
anywhere.
Tom.
Yeah. Oh, for God's sake. But yeah, like how scary is that anyone like even a kid? There's even like kids now who are like who are rappers and all this stuff, and they're like 7 or 8 years old, and they're blown up on social media, like talking about really like inappropriate stuff for their age. But I
Yeah.
guess with auto tune and AI and a couple of contacts, you're gonna be fine.
Yeah, but in a way, that kind of brings us back to the beginning of the conversation because we started off talking about community radio, and I made the point then, and everything we talked about just reinforces it.
Yeah,
Community radio is challenged because people don't know a lot about community radio, but it's challenged because it's not for profit, it's charitable, and there's limitations on funding, limitations on advertising. It has to be all of those things at the same time as actually delivering social gain.
yeah,
Whatever that is, right, has to deliver social gain. Now, commercial radio stations just need to have an audience, and they need to keep their shareholders happy. And pretty well all of them play the same songs anyway, right?
yeah,
And it's you tune in and you hear the same songs over and over again. So community radio has a really different challenge facing it, but it also is as challenged as all parts of the media all parts of the media, even Netflix and think people, organizations like this, even they're challenged,
yeah,
because again, they want everything, they want it now, they want it for free.
yeah, yeah. Thing is, if people start, I'm sure they already have actually, but if people start releasing songs that have been written by AI and not them, like I think you can't really blame those people, like, because if they're desperate. I do think a lot of people are just desperate for like fame. I'm not gonna lie. Like I think shows like Love Island and reality TV shows have
Yeah.
kind of like definitely ruined people's work ethic because they just think, well, if I'm pretty and I've got a nice physique and I hit the gym for about 6 months and I go on Love Island and I'll be fine. And they're not. They end up becoming irrelevant again. But just because of their look or whatever. Because I do think a lot of it these days is about the look as well. I don't think people really care what's coming out of people's mouths. I just think, oh, well, that person looks cool. That person fits our demographics. So let's put them on TV and give them a script and a microphone. And I think that's sad because it's taken away from actual talent, people who are actually putting the work in. And that's really bad as well. And how much is that gonna? How much? And what's your take on that? Because that must be like frustrating for someone who's been in the industry as long as you have. Because I'm just starting to think like this is just it just looks ridiculous. I think we all just look a bit pathetic, especially my generation, because we're so lazy, but like we want everything now.
Well, again, things just change so quickly. So we had this conversation 3 to 5 years down the line, we'll probably we'll know a lot
Yeah,
more about it because
yeah,
one thing will have happened by then, like, because I've just stepped out of education, and AI is whatever, however universities dressed up, we've got an approach to it, la 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 la. AI is, it's a massive, massive, massive worry.
yeah,
Like, ultimately, okay, you can put through things through like authenticity checks and all the rest of it, right? So you could be like plagiarizing something, but if you AI plagiarizing something, it's like almost infinite. Um,
yeah,
and I think the impact of artificial intelligence on society is gonna, I think it's gonna move way more quickly than anyone could imagine. I mean, somebody could take this conversation, right, and they could chop all the words I'm saying to you and put them in a different order. I could be saying all kinds of outrageous things, or they could
yeah,
even change. They could stick another person's head on my body. Or make me someone else or whatever. And the same to you. So
yeah,
there's nothing that can't really be. It's nothing that can't be done really with AI. If you think about people like Bezos and Huckenberg and of course our mate Elon,
yeah.
um, who are literally kind of human money making machines, who are able to just invest in what I would just see as real, totally indulgent, ego chasing space trips and all the rest of it, and even have and even get to the position where they're now mates with one of the most
Mm.
powerful men on political people in the world, and happen to be one of the richest people in the world. There's some dangerous times coming, and the whole it all the conversation we've had really sits on the to use an academic term, on the paradigm of truth versus fakeness versus expertise versus reality, um, because it becomes more and more cloudy to know which is which.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't honestly, I don't think that people are ready for it. Like, especially my generation. I don't think people are paying any attention at all. I think they're just like, yeah, see how it comes, and it'll all be exciting, it'll all be fine. Because I think, well, yeah, I mean, like the whole AI thing, like it's so interesting how, like, I mean, that to me has really made me feel like, is anyone real at all? Because there's robots coming in now, and also like part-time jobs for students. Like people used to work in cafes and bars and restaurants, and now all that's going to be. I think all those jobs are going to be completely wiped out. And I'm now a fence. I'm also a farmer as well, but I put fences around fields, to keep the sheep and cows in and stuff. But even that's got like high technology now to knock the stakes in, to put the fencing up, to put the wire up. So all the manual work and all the jobs have gone,
Yeah.
and then it's trickling into the media, and it's just gonna, I don't know, I do feel like it's gonna ruin everything, because I do feel like, particularly in my generation, like we barely speak now. So with AI coming in, like do we, we're gonna live just like we're not even gonna make eye contact, and it's just gonna ruin, like, because our network. Do you think it's gonna change like networking events? Like, because I do like the fact that you can go to a networking event and you can shake someone's hand and you can have a conversation with them. But now, like, I feel like all that's gonna just disappear. Like, it's gonna be all like an iPad, and you just turn the iPad to someone, and they say the word, we'll all be mute. It's gonna be odd. Like networking. How much do you think networking is going to change? Like now
Well,
that AI and all this technology's come along.
the other thing to say is that I used to talk about with the kind of stuff that I used to do, which I used to love about my job, as I didn't make any secret of it, which is community stuff, right?
Yeah.
There's a whole I got time to go into that. You haven't got time for me to go into that, but um, there's a whole bunch of reasons why community is quintessential to our everyday existence as human beings. It transcends everything, right? So communities are really important, because ultimately people, we are still human beings, right? So I am talking to you, and I recognize you. That's Tom there. I can know you, right? So I know, that's not AI Tom, that's real Tom, yeah. So
Yeah.
we still have that, but there's networking and there's networking, right? So For example, what I would talk about the stuff I did with community stuff is I would create connections where they didn't previously exist, which I
Mm,
always tried to do as a lecturer. Whether I was right or wrong, that's what I always tried to do. So I would call that validated networking. And what I mean by that is rather than students just working for some big corporation, some big concern, doing a tick box of work experience, why not instead get them to work with something like Bro, actually, a not-for-profit charitable community media institution, which is there to enable good in their local communities. So the students not only pick up all the skills which are transferable wherever they go in their careers in the future, they're also helping that local organization and they're helping that local organization to help people in their local communities. So that's what I mean by validated networking. So networking is not necessarily going in, wearing a suit and turning up for breakfast in the morning and, having like a breakfast conference or whatever. Networking is meeting people. Networking is conversation. Networking is shaking hands to some extent, whether it's physically or verbally, meeting people, sharing skills, finding ways of helping each other, so it doesn't have to be a formal thing. And as long as we're human beings, because we can't be, I mean, there may well be a way better version of me. There's going to be a better AI version of me, that's for sure. Yeah.
oh.
Yeah. And then some universities have even thought about that, using avatars and stuff.
Whoa.
Honestly, yeah, honestly, right. But I can kind of see that in a real massive corporate big brother capitalist world. If you've got an avatar lecturer, they're never going to be not going to turn up one day, are they? They're not going to be sick. They're not going to miss the bus, are they? Because they don't
No,
exist,
no, no.
right?
Whoa, yeah,
Yeah. So I mean that's the kind of the world. But while we're alive, like me, you, and your talented girlfriend, yeah, while
yeah,
we're alive, we are human beings. So we're
yeah.
probably going to need to eat now and again, breathe
Huh. Yeah,
and have the odd conversation and maybe enjoy a bit of a social life.
yeah.
So again, just get on with being the best version of yourself that you can. It's all you can do.
Do you think because obviously like where I studied and obviously where you taught was the creative industries building. Do you think like because obviously like I didn't I don't know I mean I worked with obviously like the media production students I think on that voiceover drama that we did and
Yeah,
stuff
which is
and that
good.
was
Yeah,
really fun. And that was
yeah,
really fun and obviously I had that podcast with Casey and Jack uh
yeah.
and Alex then and but with AI coming in like you said, like all the AI generated voices and stuff, like we could people could literally just make a podcast up as well. Like it's all just like so freehand now. And do you think it's going to get to a point where students like won't turn up to actual university and they'll just do lectures online at home? Because if there's no point, like if there's no one there to actually show them how to like work a radio studio, for example, and it's all going to be avatar, you think there's people who are even going to bother showing up? Because if they're just going to talk to a computer screen, they can do that anyway.
Well, I'm not saying they're all going to be avatars. I'm just saying it has been thought of, as and it's been trialed at universities. Um, you know, we went through the COVID thing, didn't we? And
Yeah,
people dealt with it in different ways. There's aspects of online stuff that I actually quite liked.
yeah,
But there's from a human being point of view, it's not great because you never actually it's not very healthy. And also if you're a fee paying student, then you probably want to be with lecturers who have a vague, who have come to it because they're there for a reason, because they have some industry experience or they're valuable to you and they're human beings and you can converse and go off topic with them, hopefully, and have good communication with them. And I don't think that's probably going to go out of fashion, but universities themselves, the whole nature of university study, I think is massively challenged, commercially, in terms of funding, in terms of the impact of Brexit on international students, etc. And also, also, value for money, etc. And the model that they're looking at, or they were most recently looking at in some universities, was the idea of that students would you preload content to students. The students would consume the content, short form content, and then they would come into a class, and then they'd feed back to the lecturer, and you'd have like a meaningful conversation, rather than somebody there regurgitating a big load of PowerPoint stuff at you, which I didn't do very much, as you probably know.
Yeah,
Some people do that really well, but it can also be quite brain destroying for people. But it's not particularly interactive. Somebody giving you a
yeah,
big load of PowerPoint stuff, feeding you lots of big words. So the idea is that they wanted it to be more kind of an interactive exchange, and then also to have some input within that also from people like software teams and employability experts, etc. And so to make it more of an organic feast, so to give the students a reason to turn up. So
yeah,
there's a logic in that. I mean, rather than forcing 100 students to turn up in some lecture theatre at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, no one wants to be there, So the idea of them coming in and having more of a conversational interactivity with
yeah.
a person who's been around the block a bit is probably not a bad idea, really.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'll ask you as well is that in terms of journalism, like now that obviously like you got social media and you got sort of like anyone sort of becoming known, well, anyone having an opinion rather. So it's hard to know what's real and what's not. How do you think journalism is going to change now? Obviously, because obviously it has obviously changed with social media. Because I interviewed a BBC broadcast journalist, Lucy Baxter, which is on my YouTube channel, and she just started at the BBC not long ago, and she was saying that obviously social media's changed massively, it's changed the world of journalism, but I think it's quite dangerous, given that we don't know what's true and what isn't true. So how can people like if you I don't know, like say for example you want to work independently or whatever as a journalist and you've got a bit of a following, like how can you become reliable? Because obviously like even media companies now have been known not to be reliable. Even newspaper sources are known to be not completely accurate. So it's very hard to navigate the world of journalism if you're trying to be like if you're trying to be a big name, if you're trying to be a well respected individual. How do you think people can navigate that if they want to be journalists such as myself then?
That's a fantastic question. Um, I think you'd get a better answer from somebody like Becky Leach.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or yeah, Becky Leach would be the one would spring to mind on that. I suppose um above and beyond that question, and I'm not avoiding the question, but I think it's a case of a little bit like yourself, actually, where what you're doing now is just doing the right things. Um, but also trying, like you're doing, listening to other podcasts, reading around, checking out different content, keeping an eye on what's going on, and being aware that things are changing and they will continue to change quickly, and just trying to keep up to speed with developments, and also to be as legitimate and honest, um, and decent with the content that you create, and share. I think that's probably all you can do. And then, of course, if you look at the BBC, the BBC's challenged,
Yeah,
well, you know that more than I do, with your
yeah,
family connections.
yeah,
BBC's in a really difficult place. The whole world, the whole concept of media as such has changed massively, and that's when if people like Elon, because let's face it, if he's already been kind of mooted, hasn't it? If he wanted to, they seem to be very fond of Farage and reform and all the rest of it. If they wanted to, he's a multi-billionaire,
yeah,
You can just check him a whole pile, oh, do you want a few mil to run your next campaign,
yeah,
He can,
yeah,
he can just do that. Um,
yeah,
so so yeah, it's you can't do anything about that. It's just this inevitable that we're gonna be getting into this kind of very, very difficult situation, which we're already in, where we don't know what's true, we don't know what's not, and that whole concept of confusion over truth versus fake is massively confusing and very, very beneficial to people you really wouldn't want it to be beneficial to.
Yeah, yeah. It's so scary. It's very scary. It's also like really fascinating because obviously like I
It is,
just think
it's
when a
grimly
world
fascinating. It is, yeah.
yeah, it's really fascinating because I think everything's happening so rapidly, and I don't really see many people. Well, I mean, there are people panicking, but I do also feel like people are just like sort of like trying to ignore it, thinking like it's kind of a phase. But I think this is like a tsunami of just like a
Yeah.
takeover, and no one's ever going to stop it. And it's absolutely insane how you go on it. You go well. I'm not really on social media anymore, to be honest, because sometimes like I think well, because mental health obviously is just significantly sought. Because I interviewed a woman, a psychologist, and she was on about how men's mental health is way worse than women's, but men won't seek out help because it's not masculine then to seek out help. And I think social media, as you're saying, is just completely skyrocketed mental health, and I think it's just ruining a lot of people's confidence, and they're not believing in their talents, and then they think, well, what's the point because my journey's too long. This person's got fame before me, and there's so much comparison. And I think, like, well, I mean, this might be kind of an obvious question, really, but what's your advice about trying to like just sort of stay in your own lane and not worry about? Because I'm not worried about other people's journeys within my industry because my journey is going to be different than everyone else's. Like, I'll get different opportunities, I'll know different people, and I'll have different qualifications. But what's your advice on people who constantly compare themselves to people within the same industry and panic and worry and then end up giving up? Because I think so many people just lack patience. What's your advice to those?
Well, I'm going to give you a bit of an intro to this one because my remember I talked about my daughter. She was studying in Exeter and she's graduated now. She's home. So she's doing some work at the moment to build up some money to go on a year's not a year, sorry. She's gone on a some away trips with her boyfriend for a while.
Oh,
So
nice.
she's currently working in the local pub, and my plan is quite soon to walk down the road, pick her up from that pub, take her to another pub that I prefer, have a beer with her, and come home with a curry. So that's my intro. So I haven't got that long. So I
Okay,
just to say,
that's
I
right.
think it probably it's probably in a way, if I was clever enough to do it, which I'm not, but I could kind of use some of the stuff we talked about, which I'll try to a bit, to summarize that. I've said about homogenization. Um, I've said about you as an example, because you are genuinely doing all the right things. And the
Appreciate that.
stuff you're doing with YYFM, for example, and that Kissing It Better, with Jill Fraser, TV, radio experience, really well connected. Um, not in a mercenary way, but that's why community media is so valuable because you can access people you won't probably get to in commercial. You can sometimes with BBC, but it takes a bit longer. So just keep on doing that idea of just doing the right thing, being true to yourself, being the best version of yourself that you can, meeting people, trying new things, building new skills, making mistakes, learning from those mistakes, reflecting on those mistakes, developing a contact field, but in a kind of in a nice way by being a decent human being, believing in yourself, remembering why you started out on this journey, and why you want to be successful at it. And hey, you may not be, right? But again, you can only be that best version of yourself, and you
Mm,
can only just do all the right things. But that knowledge and those skills and those life skills, will be with you, and they'll travel with you, and they'll also travel with you as and when one day. Remember, we used to talk about elevator pitches and stuff
yeah,
like that. I'm not saying
yeah,
you're going to be in a lift one day with like, some MD or something, but you might meet somebody somewhere and they might
yeah,
say, hey, Tom, so tell me about yourself. What do you do? What are you interested in? And you will have done a lot.
yeah.
So, hopefully that'll open a door for you and off you'll go. And that's all you can do, Tom, I think.